In this video we're going to go over haunches out on the circle. In the last video we went over haunches in down the rail, and now we're progressing on into haunches out on the circle. And haunches out is also known as Renvers. So if you hear that term, that's all it means, is just haunches out. So I've set up a cone here, and so with haunches out on the circle, you just go ride a circle, and your prerequisites are all of your bends and counter bends work, so your shoulder in and counter shoulder in work, and you've obviously done some haunches in down the rail, and so now you're going to do some haunches out on the circle here. This is going to be a little trickier because you're going to need to establish the circle and think of your horse's shoulders going on that line of travel. So I'm going to bend my horse to the outside slightly, and then I'm going to slide my right leg back, which is now the outside leg because my horse is bent to the outside, and I ask her to just bring her hind end off the rail. But I have to use my weight in my reins to keep her head, neck, and shoulder bent to the outside, but then on the line of travel that I'm on. And now this here, you don't need to have a lot of angle. So if you get your horse's hind end to shift out slightly, that is fine. It's just a slight shift. So again, I'm going to tip my horse's nose to the outside first, shift my weight in a little bit or into the circle, but it's to the outside, it's in the direction of travel, it's the outside of the bend. Come on with my outside leg here, asking her to shift over. Yeah, nice. And so there she's a little stiffer. She's always stiffer to the left. And then I let her out of that. So I don't have to hold her in very long. And if you've never done it with your horse, you get a couple steps, let them go straight ahead. And play with this on both sides. So again, we're walking the circle. I get the circle. I bend my horse's head and neck to the outside. It doesn't have to be a lot. Now I come on with my outside leg to the bend. It's the inside leg to the circle, but the outside to the bend, asking the hind to come off of the rail. Now, I was just saying with the weight, the other direction there, of bringing your weight slightly to the inside, that all depends on what your horse needs. When you're on the circle here, it's a little bit different than just going down the rail. So think of the other direction. For her, I did need to shift my weight in a little bit. With this direction, I need to stay more balanced with slight shifts depending on what her shoulder does. So think of, on the circle here, what you do with your weight is dependent on what your horse needs. If the horse starts drifting out a little bit with the shoulders, shift your weight in, or if they drift in a little bit, shift your weight out. So think of trying to stay as balanced as possible, but using the weight to help the shoulders what they need. So that's at the walk. We can do this at the trot. So we get a nice trot going first, and I'm going to ride a little bit bigger of a circle here. So don't go too small. And then I'm going to just get a counter bend, that bend to the outside first. And then I'm going to come on with my outside leg, which is my left leg. It's this leg here. And say, can you bring your hind to the outside just a few strides, and then I allow her to go straight ahead again. Tip the nose to the outside. Come on with my outside leg. And ask the hind to come on over. Now, if my horse was heavy on that leg, I would use a little whip. She's doing pretty well. And the other thing with your leg is try not to just clamp down and press on it. Use a bit of a feel and a pulsing action. The more in time you can get with their feet, the easier it is. So when that foot leaves the ground, if I can just pulse and say step it over, the easier it'll be for your horse to do it. So I get the bend to the outside, ask the hind to go out a little bit. Nice, and then straight ahead here. And again, tip the nose to the outside. Come on with a little outside leg, saying move your hind end over. And going. So if you're having trouble with this, go back to your counter shoulder in. If it's a bend issue, go back to a counter shoulder in. Go from the counter shoulder in into a haunches out. And if it's a angle issue, if you're having trouble getting angle, do a shoulder in on the circle. Get your horse to move his hind end out there, and then just change the bend. So you have different variations, different ways you can play with this. Start getting creative on how to help your horse find these different movements, develop these different movements. You're not going to do this at a canter unless you're really advanced. You could do this on a counter canter, and then you could do a haunches out in a counter canter, but that takes a very developed horse. So this is on the circles, mostly just done at the walk and the trot. And like I say, go out there and play with different ways of how to help your horse develop and get that. Do you need to go from a counter bend into the haunches in? Do you need to go from a counter shoulder in into it, or a shoulder in? Figure out what does your horse need. I'd love to hear some feedback on how you helped your horse get the haunches out on the circle. So leave me your comments below, and we'll see you in the next video.